There's been a topic circulating for us in several of our groups this week. It was a topic that was up last week in Connecting for Recovery with Amber. It was up in our men's speakeasy group this week. It was a topic in our team meeting this morning, so seemed appropriate to take an unmasked spin on it as well. And that is vulnerability. I feel like that word, just saying it out loud, already kind of creates some reaction in my body that's somewhere between like fear and the ick. Just the word by itself. Not even getting into the practice of it. Vulnerability from the perspective of the neurodivergent in recovery. There are a few different things as we've talked through this topic in several different platforms over the week that have been swirling in my head. And I wanted to bring to group today just to get some thoughts from you all and some experiences, strength and hope as well, on your perspective. So in recovery, we teach that safety is necessary for recovery. Safety is necessary as the foundation before we're able to access any of the other recovery skills. We talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how at the bottom of that is food, shelter, and water. And if we don't have those things in place, we can't focus on anything else. I can't understand how to create relationships or move towards self-actualization if I don't know where my next meal is coming from, or I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. That is where my brain is going to go 100% of the time. That's what's going to take my focus, and rightfully so. And the foundational piece for the emotional parallel to that Maslow triangle, the same place in the Maslow's triangle as the food, shelter, and water is safety in relationships. And that's in relationship with myself and with others in order for our recovery practices to really be walked out. And then I had that kind of swirling in my mind. And on the other side, thinking about the topic of vulnerability and how vulnerability is a key piece of what it means to be authentic in connection and to allow things like accountability to be present in our recovery. There has to be a level of vulnerability in order for those things to be present. And what I know about vulnerability, if you think about all of the work that Brené Brown has done on vulnerability, she describes it as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. All three of those things sound like run for the hills to my nervous system. Don't want any of those. Even for a neurodivergent brain that has more of an ADHD flavor and is seeking new stimulation and things like that, there is still an underlying preference for predictability or control. Many neurodivergent brains prioritize familiarity and really look for certainty in order to feel safe. And that's understandable also when we're looking at all of the different truths about a neurodivergent brain, that emotional regulation is really often harder. And when emotional regulation is harder, we tend to identify relationships and scenarios where it may be less necessary. Rejection sensitivity is bigger for many neurodivergent brains. Little things like a delay in somebody texting me back, or not being chosen, or even something like constructive feedback or accountability, my nervous system can perceive as rejection. None of those things feel like they align with this idea of uncertainty and risk and emotional exposure. So I've really been working for the last couple of days on reconciling what is needed in order for an individual with a neurodivergent brain to access safety in relationship. Because if our goal is recovery, and recovery is living in alignment with my truest and highest self, then I have to be able to experience relationship, because we heal and we thrive in connection. And that's what we as humans, what our brains are wired for, is connection. So as I've spent some time with this and really considering what that barrier might be, what came up is that vulnerability isn't hard for a neurodivergent person because we don't want connection. It's hard because our nervous system has learned to associate exposure with pain. Our nervous system has learned through a lifetime of experiential feedback that more often than not, if I put myself out there in a way that creates uncertainty, creates risk, creates emotional exposure, especially in an environment where the people around me are not functioning from a basis of recovery, my nervous system has learned that the majority of the time that ends in pain. And so my nervous system and my brain is going to seek the opposite of that, because that's the baseline of what we're wired to do. Just our core need in our brain is to move away from things that are uncomfortable or unsafe and towards things that are more comfortable and more safe. And that in situations like vulnerability naturally feels like move towards certainty and familiarity and predictability, and move away from uncertainty and risk and exposure, because exposure through my experience has felt like hurt. It has felt like pain. It has felt like fear. It has felt like abandonment or rejection. And so really looking at this idea of what it means to find safety in relationship in order to access vulnerability and recovery says, what does it look like to be able to stay regulated in my nervous system and bring my control internally into me, rather than projecting my control into what I can manage outside of me. That in order for my nervous system to feel that sense of predictability and certainty and control that I need in order to feel safe enough to put myself out there, my first stop has to be internal. My first stop has to be a reminder to myself that I have guidelines, that it's okay for me to change my mind, that it's okay for me to have boundaries, that it's okay for me to ask for what I need, that it's okay for me to decide I'm finished with a conversation or that I don't want to participate in something, and that vulnerability and exposure and recovery doesn't equate to a lack of choice. That I still get a say in where the safety is in place so that vulnerability is chosen as a path to connection instead of forced as a path to control and fear and pain. This is a heavy topic. There's so much heaviness around the idea of vulnerability, and there's so much connected to it in experience. So I want to take some time as a group to just hear some experiences from you on what vulnerability and recovery has looked like and what has been supportive for you in that creation of safety in order to allow it to happen. Such a such a I don't even know what the word is. It's a layered topic, right? Um, so thinking about a tool for this week, I had so many different things playing out in my head. Um, Things about responding versus reacting and confidentiality with self and what I have the right to and all of those things. And ultimately all of that pulls back to guidelines. All of it pulls back to when something feels off, is uncomfortable, does not feel safe. 99% of the time, there's a guideline that I have that I'm not honoring or that I need and haven't put out there as a need for myself or for other relationships. And so um, all of those different things fall under that is, really to preserve safety and turn that inwardly before I can take it outward into other relationships is staying in alignment with the guidelines I have created for me and me that ensure that what safe looks like for me in recovery is different from what quote unquote safe was demonstrated in all of the different situations that I've experienced in environments and places and relationships in my backstory. So doing a check-in and what guideline is it that I am out of alignment with right now that I need in order to have enough safety internally to allow external exposure without an immediate fight or flight. Right? This is one I feel like we're probably going to come back to. No, one that we will, one of the rotation that we will always circle back to because I don't know, I've been in recovery for quite a while and I haven't found the point where it gets comfortable to be vulnerable yet. So just keep circling back. But I have a lot of gratitude for this space and for the safety to be able to share and speak into it here.